In order to eliminate crucial nodes in Iran, the United States began the process by deploying stealth bombers of the B-2 Spirit type. Following that, it dispatched B-52s to carry out sledgehammer strikes in order to wreak havoc on Iran. Following that come the B-1s. An incredible raid on Iran was carried out by the B-1 pilots of the United States, and it is highly possible that this strike will be studied in every military pilot school from this point forward. The ultimate blow has been delivered, and it has struck with such force that the dictatorship that is falling apart in Iran will never recover. In a recent statement, the United States of America stated, "Forget stealth. We are in total destruction mode." As stated by Air and Space Forces magazine, the arrival of B-1 bombers in Iran is a clear indication that the United States of America has no intention of ceasing its campaign of deadly strikes against Iran and its tyrannical regime. During a meeting with media at the Pentagon on March 2nd, General Dan Kane, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stated that this work is just beginning and would continue. This information has been confirmed by General Kane, and this trend has continued as the United States launched its B-1 bombers against Iran almost soon after it dispatched its B-2 bombers to strike at the core of Iran's command and control centers. These B-1 bombers were required to travel vast distances. As was the case with the B-2s that came before them, the B-1s had to fly for more than 30 hours in order to reach Iran. This was due to the fact that the United Kingdom refused to permit the United States to use the key bases of RAF Fairford and Diego Garcia. The latter base is located in the Indian Ocean and would have provided the B-1 pilots with the opportunity to land, refuel, and get ready for their attacks. Despite the fact that this circumstance has evolved since then and will be discussed further on in the movie, the B-1 pilots demonstrated that they did not require assistance from anyone in order to complete the task at hand during the initial wave of attacks. Having spent more than 30 hours in the air, the pilots of the United States of America followed up on the job that their fellow Americans had done in the B-2s by carrying out a bombing run that has left Iran in a state of complete devastation. Consequently, the question that naturally arises is, what purpose did the B-1 bombers truly serve in Iran? According to Air and Space Forces magazine, they were a part of a campaign that resulted in the United States hitting over 1,250 targets within the first 48 hours of the conflict. Their responsibilities were straightforward. They were tasked with delivering a huge payload of 74,000 pounds into the geographical center of Iran. It was reported in the magazine that the United States of America dispatched 3 B-1 bombers into Iran, which participated in a mission to hit Iran's missile installations. Additionally, the United States dispatched additional command and control, or C2 centers, which Iran must maintain operating in order to coordinate anything that even remotely resembles a fight against the United States. We will explain why Iran's ballistic missile infrastructure was the most important factor in these B-1 strikes in just a few minutes. But first, we mentioned payloads that were worth 74,000 pounds. Multiply that number by 3 to get the total number of B-1s that the United States sent to Iran, and you get an insane maximum of 222,000 pounds worth of explosive fury delivered to Iran in a single mission. Fury is the phrase that best describes both the United States operation, which has been given the name Operation Epic Fury, and the amount of explosive fury that a B-1 bomber is capable of bringing into his base. Although we do not know the specific armaments that the United States B-1 bombers employed in Iran, the pilots of these bombers would have had a wide variety of options to choose from. Almost every weapon that these bombers are capable of delivering has the potential to completely destroy a target. There is a maximum of 84 Mark 82 dumb bombs that can be put onto a B-1, and each of these bombs weighs 500 pounds. This is the typical bomb front. Additionally, it is able to transport 24 Mark 84 general-purpose bombs, each of which weighs 2,000 pounds. Mark 62s, which weigh 500 pounds each, and Mark 65 quick-strike naval mines are also capable of being put aboard the bomber. However, it is highly improbable that the latter would have been utilized in the B-1 sorties that took place in Iran. As for the other bombs, there is a possibility that all three of them would necessitate the B-1s flying practically straight over the targets, which may put the bombers into the vicinity of Iran's air defenses. Despite the fact that these defenses were smashed by the earlier bombing attacks carried out by the B-2 and the sledgehammer strikes carried out by the B-52S of the United States, the prospect of a B-1 takedown by Iran was likely sufficient to prevent the American bombers from flying directly over their objectives. But the United States did not require direct flying. It is quite likely that the B-1s were utilized to deliver firepower from a distance in order to target and destroy Iran's missile facilities located in C2 centers. According to the United States Air Force, the B-1 has the capability of being carried with 24 GBU-31 Joint Direct Attack munition, which weighs 2,000 pounds for each unit. As an alternative, it is capable of transporting up to 15 GBU-38 Joint Direct Attack missiles, weighing up to 500 pounds, or up to 24 AGM-158A Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff missiles. The fact that the word standoff is included in the name of the latter missile provides a hint as to how the United States utilized its B-1s. Rather than sending its three bombers straight over the targets that the United States wished to strike, the United States diverted them to Iran so that they could fire off their large payloads at a safe distance between themselves and the targets. Iranian C-2 centers and missile sites were pounded by thousands upon thousands of pounds of guided bombs and missiles, leaving them as little more than smoldering holes in the ground. This occurred after they had been hit by an adversary that they were unable to even see. The National Security Journal offers a few further information regarding the operation that is being discussed. In the report, it is said that the three B-1 bombers conducted round-trip missions from the continental United States. They were able to remain in the air without having to land at any bases in order to refuel, because they were assisted by American refueling tankers that flew across the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean. After that, the B-1s arrived like flying ninjas and carried out the mission that had been assigned to them. They traveled back to the United States, most likely utilizing the same aerial refueling tankers that they used to get back to the United States after entering Iran's airspace, releasing their bombs and missiles, and then flying back home. The journal makes it very evident that the earlier bombing missions of the B-2 made it feasible for these sorties to take place. This is made clear while analyzing the fundamental differences between the B-2 and the B-1. According to the publication, if the B-2 is able to reach closer to severely protected or hardened targets, the B-1B would either have to operate after the air defenses have been degraded, or it will have to remain outside of the most densely defended areas altogether. It is for this reason that standoff weapons are the most likely option for the B-1 plane. The aerial conflict has had its form determined. Using its B-1 bombers, the United States of America made full use of this opportunity. The bombers served as a high-capacity launch platform, as described by the National Security Journal and other publications. Immediately following the completion of the work that the B-2s had done with penetrating strikes, the B-1s followed up with precision strikes that were launched from a distance. These strikes were made possible due to the fact that Iran's air defenses were so destroyed that stealth was no longer required. Obviously, the United States of America must continue to exercise caution. For this reason, it does not employ its bombers in attacks that are more conventional in nature. However, the United States has changed the battlefield with an inventive plan that has enabled it to deploy a stacked bomber technique to beat Iran's layered air defenses. This has allowed the United States to achieve victory against Iran. The onion that comes from Iran has been peeled. The tears shed by the regime that has fallen apart are all that are left. Once again, let's return to the objectives that the United States of America hit with their B-1s. Iran International has confirmed that the United States bombers carried out overnight raids on March 2nd, which resulted in the destruction of above-ground ballistic missile positions, as well as the C-2 senders that we indicated. Permit us to explain why all of this is significant for the future of the conflict in a moment, and we ask that you remain with us. There is a little bit more explanation provided by TBN Israel, which states that in the aftermath of the B-1's striking, damage was done to some of Iran's most important facilities. According to the outlet, there were reports of loud explosions heard in the vicinity of the nuclear facility and the Air Force base in the central region of Isfahan in Iran. The same news organization also backs up the reports that the United States has been using its B-1 bombers to strike Iran's ballistic missile facilities and C-2 senders. These attacks are all part of the American strategy. From the point of view of Iran's regime, the actions that the United States of America and Israel have taken against Iran are already extremely detrimental. The situation for Iran, on the other hand, is going to become a great deal more dire. On the other hand, for the time being, you are currently watching Global Shield US. In the event that you have not yet subscribed, this is the ideal opportunity to do so in order to ensure that you are constantly one step ahead of the competition. You have just witnessed the US government's use of its B-1 bombers to wreak havoc on Iran. This technique is significant in terms of what is going to happen in the future for a number of different reasons. Starting with the C-2 senders that were destroyed, Iran has suffered a significant setback at the hands of these. The term C-2 sender refers to any central area that acts as a gathering place for commanders to control operations. These individuals are the ones that issue orders to the troops that are stationed on the ground, as well as to the naval aviation and missile defense assets. Imagine that they are the central nervous system of an entire military effort. The absence of C2 causes the brain to become disconnected from the rest of the body. If your brain were to suddenly disappear from your skull at this very now, your body would be unable to perform any function. You would not survive. Through its concentration on C2 senders, the United States has done just that to Iran. Due to the fact that Iran has lost its C2 orders are not even being formulated, let alone being sent out. The ability of Iran to observe the battlefield is also impacted as a result of this. As an illustration, it is challenging to undertake drone and missile strikes against United States naval assets when the infrastructure that was previously in place to monitor such assets has been removed. The United States has been able to demolish everything that is hidden behind the seams of Iran's military posture in a matter of days, and the B-1s have played a significant role in this process. In addition, we are already witnessing the outcomes. Iran is having to come to terms with the fact that the United States B-1 bombers have destroyed a significant number of its ballistic missile launch sites. This is in addition to the fact that Iran has lost its C2 senders. There will be fewer missile launches by Iran if you combine the two variables. Since the beginning of the conflict, Iran has been able to successfully launch 571 missiles and 1,391 drones. As stated in a report that was broadcast by the BBC on March 4th. As we will discuss in a moment, this raises a dilemma on the missile stockpile front that is independent of any other possible issue. On the other hand, Kane stated on March 4th that Iran's ballistic missile launches had already decreased by 86% when compared to the first day of the battle, and that they had decreased by 23% between March 3rd and March 4th alone. The benefits of the B-1 strategy become more apparent when you consider the fact that there has been a 73% decrease in the number of drone launches. If C-2 is destroyed, it will be impossible to coordinate the launches of missiles. Should the missile bases and launchers be destroyed, it will be impossible for missile strikes to take place, even if Iran is able to get its C-2s back into operation. JINSA, which stands for the Jewish Institute for National Security of America, inserts yet another obstacle into the path that Iran is traversing. As of the 5th of March, it made a comparison between what we are witnessing from Iran at the present time and what it did during the 12-day battle with Israel in the year 2025. As a result of the fast destruction of around 75% of Iran's launch capacity by forces from the United States and Israel, the government is no longer able to carry out substantial and continuous barrages. Despite the fact that Iran is still capable of launching limited strikes, JINSA asserts that each attack consumes the launcher force that it still possesses and necessitates even more limited follow-up attacks. Using numbers that imply Iran has lost up to 73% of its medium-range ballistic missiles, up to 52% of its short-range ballistic missiles, and the 75% of launchers that have already been mentioned, it provides evidence to support this allegation. Iran has been on the receiving end of a 1-2 punch. The scale of the attack carried out by the United States and Israel is such that Iran has used up a significant quantity of its missiles without achieving any significant results. Furthermore, as more launchers are destroyed initially by the B-1s and then by what is coming after them, Iran will be limited to a very limited number of launches, even if it is able to rebuild its stockpiles. Despite the fact that this is a clever move on the part of the United States, Iran is still facing a number of challenges as the war develops beyond its initial phase. According to what you will soon learn, additional B-1s are going to be arriving, and when they do, they, along with the other bombers and fighter jets that the United States of America possesses, will be able to operate over Iran with even greater impunity than we have previously witnessed. The United States of America has reportedly acquired air superiority over Iran, as reported by National Security Journal. However, The Hill asserts that this superiority has actually evolved into dominance. David Petraeus, who has previously held the position of Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and has also been a commander of the United States Central Command, is quoted by the publication. According to Petraeus, who was quoted by the outlet, it appears that we now have the capability to fly not only stealth fighter bombers, such as the F-35 and B-2 stealth bombers, but also the real workhorses that are capable of carrying enormous payloads, such as the B-52s and the B-1s. He went on to say that we are not really concerned about the air and ballistic defense of Iran at this point in time. That means you can really simply heap it on as long as you stay above the range of the heavy machine gun. Above the range of the heavy machine gun. In the event that this is the case, it consequently indicates that whatever missile-based air defenses that Iran may have possessed have been made impractical. At this point, air superiority has been gained for virtually everything that is capable of flying at altitudes more than a few thousand feet. This encompasses every bomber and fighter jet that the United States may choose to use in its conflict with Iran. In light of the fact that Iran has been degraded to the point that it can only carry out isolated strikes, and that it is unable to defend itself against the response that those strikes elicit, the missile mat is in the possession of the United States. This predicament was brought about in large part by the United States B-1 bombers. Moreover, as was noted previously, it is highly probable that we have not yet seen the final bombers in the Iranian theater of operations. It is possible that you recall that we informed you that the United States' first 3 B-1 bombers were required to make extensive round trips without landing, since the United Kingdom did not allow access to important military bases. All of that has shifted. On the 1st of March, Keir Starmer underwent a change of heart and came to the conclusion that, in fact, the United Kingdom will grant access. The decision appears to have been made in response to Iran's use of one of its attack drones to strike a United Kingdom base in Cyprus. This action has resulted in the United Kingdom transitioning into a supporting role for the conflict. The United States of America has not exactly been magnanimous about this turnaround, and it is likely that they feel that the United Kingdom has disappointed them from the beginning by denying them access to the bases in the first place. Regarding the United States of America, the absence of access resulted in a significantly increased risk for its B-1 bombers. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has already issued some blistering criticism to Starmer, stating that he is now eager to join battles after we have already won. Additionally, there are rumors that the United Kingdom would deploy some of its aircraft carriers to the region of the Persian Gulf, which resulted in another reprimand from President Trump. Taking to Truth Social, the President of the United States of America announced that the United Kingdom, a once great ally of ours, and possibly the greatest of them all, is finally giving serious consideration to the possibility of flying 2 aircraft carriers into the Middle East. That is fine, Prime Minister Starmer. We are no longer in need of them, but we will keep them in mind. It is possible, however, that what appears to be a rift between the United States and the United Kingdom is actually a performance on the part of President Trump. How are we able to know RAF Barefoot, which you may recall as one of the 2 important facilities that the United Kingdom prohibited the United States from utilizing during its initial B-1 strikes, was the location where 4 B-1 bombers landed on March 7th, according to a report that was published in The Guardian. On their route to Diego Garcia, from which they would launch additional attacks, these bombers are most likely stopping to replenish their fuel supply before continuing on their journey. It will be possible for the B-1s to return to bases in the United Kingdom, where they will be able to refuel and resupply before continuing their mission. When we went to see it on March 2nd, it was only a taster. As a result of the United States with the assistance of the United Kingdom, the United States is soon going to be in a position where it can launch B-1s into Iran over and over again in very short time periods. This is going to make the situation for Iran far worse. Take into consideration the fact that this is Iran, which is already experiencing a number of strikes. Breaking Defense reported on March 6th that the United States claimed to have struck 3,000 targets, including 43 of Iran's vessels. This information was reported by the United States. In a step-by-step manner, the United States is removing everything that could have posed a military threat to Iran. The United States of America is working to deliver more constant firepower to Iran, and the landing of B-1 bombers at airbases in the United Kingdom is only adding to that. The last elements of Iran's regime will be searching for a way out of the country. Apparently, the United States of America is not going to give one. According to CNN, President Trump has already stated that he will not negotiate a deal with Iran unless the national government of that country delivers an unconditional surrender to the United States. Although this has not yet occurred, President Trump has made the assumption that Iran has capitulated to its neighbors in the Middle East. There is no indication that this is the case. Now, Trump is asserting that the United States is getting ready to launch a very heavy strike against Iran, which will include strikes that will target certain regions and categories of people that have not yet been targeted. Given that Trump is making these threats, it is quite unlikely that it is a coincidence that the United States has dispatched its B-1s to RAF Fairford. Iran will be in for a world of further suffering beyond what it has already experienced when the B-1s are unleashed for a second round of attacks and the United States wants its bombers to be ready to launch again as soon as the order is given. Iran is attempting to broaden the scope of the conflict, and in doing so, it is shooting itself in the foot, which is attached to a body that is already in a state of battered condition. This is because there are no off-ramps that could be made available that could preserve its government. You may recall that we indicated before that Iran has fired approximately 500 missiles and more than 1,000 drones. Instead of the United States ships that are surrounding the country, the majority of these attacks have been directed at its neighbors in the Middle East. Every one of these strikes serves as a reminder that Iran is determined to maintain its position as the dominant force in the Middle East, despite the fact that its military might is being eroded from beneath it. According to an article published by Al Jazeera on March 7th, the only thing that Iran is really doing with these attacks is eroding whatever little bit of goodwill it still has with its neighbors. If the United States were to make the option of mediating an end to hostilities accessible, Iran would have to largely rely on this goodwill in order to put a stop to the conflict. The Gulf states did not and do not want to become involved in this conflict. Yet when Iran begins firing missiles and drones at them, it is Iran that will bear the brunt of their retaliation. This is true even if the United States and Israel were the ones who initiated the war. All the while, the B-1s of the United States are hiding in the shadows. Now that they are able to use bases in the United Kingdom, those B-1s are getting ready to launch a fresh wave of strikes that may be much more destructive than the previous one. There is nothing that Iran can do to stop it from happening. It is possible that the final blow is on its way, and it will bring about a radically altered Gulf area in the years to come. At this moment, it appears like this battle has the potential to set off World War III, but the outcome of this conflict is very reliant on whether or not Iran is able to locate any allies who are willing to fight by its side beyond the properties that it already possesses that are significantly weakened. There are a number of additional conflicts that have the potential to serve as the flashpoints for World War III, and in this video, we discuss 5 of those conflicts. For further information, please watch the video, and don't forget to subscribe to Global Shield US so that you may receive additional analyses on the methods that the United States is employing to cripple Iran. In addition, I want to always thank you for watching.